You mentioned the submarine deal, which I think it's called AUKUS. It was an agreement between Australia, the United Kingdom, the United States. I actually think that was an incredibly important deal. But the problem is, from the clip that you just played, the White House press secretary is saying that they only know about potential negotiations between the French and the Chinese through media reports. And that just makes no sense to me because what I am hearing from leaders around the world, especially from places like Latin America and the Middle East, is they're saying that the Biden administration is so consumed and so focused on Russia, Ukraine to the detriment of everything else. And so therefore you have to ask yourself if your administration's focus is on Russia and Ukraine, how can you not know what the French are up to in China? How are you reading it in media reports? Listen, the same thing just happened with another partner in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. We read in the newspapers, the Biden administration read in the newspapers that they were in China announcing a deal with Iran. So the Biden White House, according to their press secretary, continues to be somewhat surprised at all of these things happening on the world stage. We're certainly, we used to call it leading from behind. Remember that back in the day? We're not even leading from behind. We're just like, couch surfing, watching the television to see what's happening in the news.
Right, right. I mean, because there are more important things in America to be worried about, like pushing the LGBTQ, ABCDFG cultural Marxism agenda and all that kind of stuff. So, that everything else just goes by the wayside. You had an op-ed recently in the Examiner, the Washington Examiner. You say France is now taking an active role in undermining the United States. What are they doing, and why should we be concerned about this?
So there has been this long discussion, Chris, about whether American companies, Western companies, what's the appropriate level of doing business in China? And the one thing, and Americans are certainly not settled on this, but the one thing that we've all said is, if you're selling a widget to China, fine, whatever, makes sense. Trump did a trade deal with China, right, where we were trying to get more agricultural products there. But there's a big difference between selling a Louis Vuitton handbag to China and actually doing a deal with their government that could potentially involve the PLA, which is, of course, the People's Liberation Army. And so you have a French company, Airbus, that is not only selling airplanes to China, but they're actually selling helicopters. And you know this better than anybody, given your background. You're kind of like just a few clicks away from that helicopter having military capabilities, especially if it were to relate to some sort of conflict, a military conflict over Taiwan. And so what's troubling it also is the partnership between the French Airbus company and they're following the rules that China sets out, that a Chinese national has to be a part of this. So you're essentially commingling and doing business with the military, which I think just goes a step from beyond being tenable, right? If there, God forbid, if there is a military confrontation with China, the United States, and gets in over Taiwan, you would not want to see us lose men and women from French-made hardware.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me to have that happen, but you wouldn't want to see it. Now, back here at home, an IRS agent is requesting whistleblower protections, Morgan, to come forward with new evidence of the agency protecting Hunter Biden and, by extension, the big guy. The Bidens join a list of Democrats accused of wrongdoing, even some found to have committed wrongdoing but never held accountable. Lois Lerner lying to Congress, Eric Holder lying to Congress, Barack Obama instrumental in the Russiagate hoax, Javier Becerra violating the Hatch Act, Sam Brinton a luggage thief and a horrible fashion sense person, though that's not a crime. Well, and it goes on and on and on. If Republicans had done any of this, if you, in your service to the government, had done any of this, they had shot a Republican or shot, somebody who would have committed these crimes. Who is to blame, do you think, for the two-tier justice system? The Democrats who break the law and get away with it, or the Mitch McConnell type Republicans who sit back and allow them to do it without any consequences?
It is incredibly troubling to hear a career whistleblower. This is a person, and we'll see what this person has to say. I believe his lawyers already said it's a he. We don't know the name yet. We know that he is a career IRS official who has documented, who has strong legal representation, and who has documented that what he has seen throughout, this Hunter, again, reportedly, we haven't heard it directly from him, but on this Hunter Biden investigation. So you have to be grateful for people who come forward, who are willing to blow the whistle if they have the goods. And this guy certainly has lawyered up and certainly has a record of writing this stuff down, getting it to the IG and the IRS, and so we're going to have to rely on those people. But it takes programs like yours. It takes people like you holding the Democrats and holding the Justice Department and other people accountable. Because, one of the things that I've long been frustrated about is since 2016, since that election, we saw the politicization of our intel community. You and I know the intel community did not used to be politicized. So they politicized that. Then they tried politicizing our military, which they've done now. And there's been an ongoing effort to politicize our justice system in a way in which that causes Americans to lose faith in these institutions. And that's what's incredibly troubling to me. The backbone of our democracy is that you and me and your viewers believe that there is a justice system, that there's a constitution, that there is, your vote if you're a billionaire or if you're in bankruptcy is the same and equal vote. And the justice system is supposed to work that way as well. So the Democrats and the media spent a lot of time in the Trump presidency talking about needing sunshine, needing a democracy, needing to be able to highlight the process. And I think that it's really important what you and others are doing now to hold it accountable. What was more unconscionable to me when I looked up in the news last week and saw Hunter Biden on the trip to Ireland with his father, I mean, this guy's under federal investigation. There is no question.
I know.
There's no question that he did business with the Chinese Communist Party and with other foreign governments. The question is, did Joe Biden himself benefit? That's something that remains unanswered. But it is a fact. It's an indisputable fact that this guy was doing business with foreign governments while his father was vice president. Joe Biden's brother was doing it as well. So that's not even up for debate anymore, right? Even the Chinese banks have given up Hunter on that front. And so to have him with this cloud of suspicion over him, just sort of thumbing your nose at the justice system to bring him on an official trip.